Welcome to Intentional Thought, the podcast where every topic gets the spotlight. From breaking news and pop culture to the mysteries of aliens and UFOs, relationships, Black empowerment, and everything else under the sun, we're diving deep and keeping it real. This is where intentionality meets curiosity, and no thought is too big or too bold. So sit back, tap in, and let's explore the world, one intentional thought at a time.
It's okay, I'm reloaded. It's okay, I'm reloaded. It's okay, I'm reloaded. It's okay, I'm reloaded. Pacino getting better with age. You niggas play the
Yeah.
Serena, but I settle for a Venus to
And
hop
we
up and
back.
down and take a ride on my peanut colada.
You know what it is.
You
ain't think I was coming back this fast, man. There's too much going on out here to just be sitting, you know what I'm saying? First, let's get the vibe right now. Let's get the vibe right.
Lying on these tracks, stuck in the trap house. Macaulay cooking ass niggas. Abusing melodies, but they can't rap. And that's just facts. Just let me snap, crackle, and pop the top of the box. I put myself in.
So, welcome back to the Intentional Thought Podcast. I am your host, Awful Truth. And today we gonna get real deep, man. We gonna get real deep. I'm basically gonna break down this new whistleblower, this video interview of him. And we gonna really, I'm gonna basically try to put the pieces of the puzzle together for y'all, man. I'm basically gonna break down this first-hand account. He's an Army veteran named Jacob Barber. In this video, I want to give people who are new to this subject how some of these pieces of this whole UFO thing fit together. And this video is a big piece, man. I really want to be that voice for people that don't really know what's going on and don't really understand this whole UFO subject. Let's turn it down just a little bit. So yeah, man, I basically want to be that voice for people. I want to be the one that can disseminate basically the complicatedness to this. I want to be the person that y'all can go to and be like, man, what is going on, man? Because there's just so much going on. But yeah, that's basically what we gonna do today. And as far as this whole UFO, UAP thing, it's been like witnesses coming forth from a second, third hand, like people that's been around it, but no real actual proof. This guy, Jacob Barber, who is an Army veteran, with like the most top secret clearance you can get. Everyone is saying he's a credible person, and there's other witnesses who was in his team and who are retired Army veterans who also have like the top secret clearance, security clearance to back up what he's saying, which is he was a helicopter pilot who participated in retrieval of these crafts. And so first I want to get into what is like retrieval of crash craft. And to get into that, you basically have to go back to this dude named David Grusch, who in 2023, he came forth and testified under oath to Congress that he was in charge of investigating UAPs, and his findings, he found out we had illegal reverse engineering, a retrieval operation. He also talked about like interdimensional beings and NHI, which is non-human intelligence. He said a whole bunch of stuff, but this is like a guy that if he was gonna, the person that you was gonna send to investigate it, this is the guy who's gonna do it.
My name is David Charles Grusch. I was an intelligence officer for 14 years, both in the U.S. Air Force, both active duty, Air National Guard, and Reserve, at the rank of major, and most recently from 2021 to 2023, at the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, NGA, at the GS-15 civilian level, which is the military equivalent of a full bird colonel. I was my agency's co-lead in unidentified anomalous phenomena and transmedium object analysis, as well as reporting to the UAP task force, UAPTF, and eventually, once it was established, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, AARO.
If you believe we have crashed craft, stated earlier, do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
As I've stated publicly already in my News Nation interview, biologics came with some of these recoveries, yeah.
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to that are currently still on the program.
So there's definitely going to be a lot of names that you kind of have to remember to get this whole picture of like what's going on with this UFO thing. Most of the people that are talking about this, they're from they're from the government, but you're usually a part of like DOD, which is the Department of Defense. They're usually military people and people that's been involved in the government. Those are really the only credible people that we really should be listening to. I mean, there's other people that have encountered it that aren't military, but when the military is saying something, that's when you kind of start to have to perk your ears up like, what's going on with this whole thing? So some of the people that you gonna hear a lot, especially with like me, are gonna be people like Lou Elizondo, who used to work for the government, basically looking for UAPs and studying UAPs. And he's one of the first people that came out to talk about it. Then you have David Grusch again. And now you have this new guy, Jacob Barber. So just start keeping up with the names because you'll start hearing them a lot more.
How long have you known this secret about unidentified anomalous phenomena being of non-human origin?
For more than 10 years.
Of course, we checked Barber's records, and we've confirmed that he was an airman in the US Air Force, working as an aerospace mechanic in the late 90s. But as these documents show, he was also recruited into Air Force Special Operations, known as Combat Control. He says he ended up working in a non-official capacity for the Department of Defense and the intelligence community.
What were you?
What was I? Ross, I was a highly talented airplane mechanic who got to deploy on a number of presidential support missions.
But Jake was no ordinary mechanic. Being recruited into the Air Force's elite combat control unit meant he had a resume that reads like something out of an action thriller. Helicopter pilot, free-fall parachutist, expert marksman, and the recipient of a NATO top-secret security clearance, a legacy of his service in Bosnia, where he won an award for an act of heroism.
See, some of these guys that they are trying to corroborate his story are people that are like high-level military people. Like, that's where you gotta start. Like, dang, if he's saying that, like, and you know, with a lot of these people that have like top secret and top clearance, security clearances, they have to go through all type of rigorous like lie detector tests. They have to go through all type of like psychological tests, and it's like an ongoing thing. Like, they got to do that all the time. A lot of times, especially people with like that's in control of nukes, you got to tell them if you take like aspirin, like that's how crazy it is that these people are so like top level that They barely can move without the government telling them that they can move, and they always have to go through like these tests, I guess. And they do it like, say if a dude gets divorced, now you got to go through another polygraph, you got to go through another drug test. Say that they find out that you in debt or something, you got to go through another polygraph, another drug test, just all the time, man. So they always checking on like, what are these people doing, and to keep your clearance. That's the only way you can keep your clearance.
News Nation spoke with 3 former Special Operations soldiers who corroborate Barber's credentials and claims. I know in Special Operations, you're often in some tough situations. You have to rely on each other. Is Jake Barber a person who you would trust?
Oh, yes. He's a person I would and have trusted with my life.
Do you think Jake Barber is a patriot?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
There's a thing I know a lot of special operators talk about, that there are certain types of men who you would want watching your back in a tight spot. Is he one of those guys?
Absolutely. Trustworthiness is one of the top things that we're looking for.
And one of his most fervent supporters is Colonel John Blitch, a Renaissance warrior who holds a doctorate in psychology, was a Delta Force sniper, and is one of the few men to hold doomsday in his hands, commanding a nuclear weapons battalion. So you believe Jake Barber is telling the truth?
Absolutely.
There has been a cover-up lasting 80 years.
Absolutely.
We've recovered craft.
Absolutely.
A lot of the work we did was on what I call the range, where the U.S. government and its private partners use to test all kinds of things, weapon systems and resilience to weapon systems of certain craft. And so you see a lot of exciting things.
So you start seeing at the range,
yes,
interesting objects.
Well, yeah, it's always interesting out there. Things come in and out of sight. Things disappear for a moment and reappear. Things seem to move very quickly. Things change color, they change shape. We did recover things that were exotic in nature in the sky, and we know they were classified craft. And we recovered them and took them back to where they go. The majority of what we see and do is explainable and is ordinary and is known by many people and is not classified. But there is a certain percentage which is extremely sensitive, and that extremely sensitive bit does include what we know is our own man-made advanced technology. One of those that would raise your eyebrow is more of the transmedium characteristics, because things would come from the ground, like from the earth, from a ridge, from a mountain, or could pass through.
So they'd come out of a ridge.
Out of a ridge.
Interesting that he says that thing about UAPs, because one of my favorite shows is Secrets from Skinwalker Ranch, and they basically observe the same thing. They show like orbs coming in and out of the mesa, and if you don't know about Skinwalker Ranch, it's another legendary place. A little backstory on Skinwalker is it's a property, I think it's in Utah, which is known for like weird stuff happening. It's one of the most famous hotspots for UFOs, which is a place that the government, they did secret research on the phenomenon for years before they sold it to this guy named Robert Bigelow, who owns Bigelow Airspace, which is also rumored to be a place that they got crafts. And if y'all want me to do a whole pod on Skinwalker Ranch, man, I will, because it's a crazy place. But on the show, they actually show like the orbs coming in and out of the mesa, man. It's crazy.
Oh my. It did come out of the mesa. It came right out of the mesa. Oh my gosh.
What the hell was it?
I don't know how else to describe this. Video recorded from Brandon's helicopter during last night's experiment captured a UAP that appeared to fly
into the mesa in the east field and then fly out of the mesa right near the triangle underneath the helicopter.
Tell me about the moment when you realized that you were involved in a retrieval of non-human technology, alien tech.
So it became very clear the first time our communication process and procedure was modified. And then just visually looking at the object on the ground, you could tell that it was extraordinary and anomalous. It was not human.
How close did you get?
Well, I was a helicopter pilot and I operate with 150 foot to 200 foot long line. So I got within 150 feet of this object.
What did you see?
I saw an egg, a white egg.
Was there any visible propulsion system on it?
No, not what we would know. There's no engine, there was no thermal signature. I was operating at night when I finally came in to pick it up, so I'm working under night vision goggles at the time. And it was quite clear. I flipped them up, flipped them down, and looked at it a couple of different ways.
How large was the object?
I would say approximately 20 feet, plus or minus a little bit, about the size of a large SUV.
Did it have any seams?
No.
And it was pure white?
It was like pearly white, like a metallic pearly white, the best I could assess.
How did you know that that egg-shaped object was non-human in origin?
Well, visually, after seeing all kinds of things in my past, it was clearly something that was ridiculously looking. It's inconsistent with anything I'd ever seen before. I can also tell you that the reaction by my team, we all knew we were dealing with something extraordinary.
And at no stage were you ever subsequently told that the craft was of non-human origin?
I will tell you that during this process over the last couple of years, it's been confirmed to me by ranking members of the UAP task force that what we were working with that night was in fact NHI, and it was not a unique experience.
So basically he's saying that him and his crew, they are tasked to go pick up any like down craft if they like crash, which I'm guessing sometimes they saying that these craft they crash, which is in itself is mad weird, because if these things are so ahead and they're so intelligent and they're way above, you know, our level of thinking, like why are they crashing? Even if a lot of what they do pick up is like reverse engineered, but it's either one or two things. If these NHI, non-human intelligence, are crashing, either we found a way to shoot them down, which some believe is the case, they've been saying that's the case for years, or they are being gifted, which is another theory that has been floating around. This woman named Diana Pasoka, who was like a high level, like religious professor who like studies this UFO thing and who has been given like access by the government and the Vatican to actually look at certain materials and stuff like that. She says that from a lot of her findings, she believes that these craft, if they're not being shot down, that they're actually being gifted to us so we can use them for reverse engineering and new technology. But I don't know. That's one of the theories that's floating out here. You can be the judge for yourself.
What do you think that object was?
I don't know. Again, I'm security and transportation. I moved it, loaded it on a truck, and it went to...
Where would it go? Where would it be taken?
It would be taken to a secure facility, but again, my role stops once I deliver it.
I wonder what one of these secure facilities are. You think it could be Wright Pat? You think it could be Lockheed? You think it could be Bigelow Aerospace? I mean, you choose which one they could be at. It could be at multiple or all of them.
NewsNation has independently obtained previously unseen video obtained from a secret UAP craft retrieval program.
You know, it's also interesting that he had to preface that to clear Jacob of any repercussions that he didn't get this video from him. See, this is the type of stuff that you gotta look out for, those fine details when they say stuff like that, because when they put out the video, they made it seem like, oh, Jacob Barber brought us this UFO video, but now they saying, oh no, he didn't give us that. We got that from somewhere else, but it's still real. You know what I'm saying? That's one of them weird things you definitely got to look out for. It's very suspicious.
Let's slow this down to take a closer look. That's an egg-shaped UAP suspended from a 150-foot long line. We're told the craft is about 20 feet long. The egg suspended in a cradle. And look how careful the pilot is as they bring their precious cargo into land. Let's freeze frame here to look at one of the clearest images of a UAP ever taken. This is no blurry light in a distant sky. The source of the footage putting themselves at incredible risk to record this UAP retrieval. Look at how perfectly smooth the craft is. No markings at all, and no visible means of propulsion or way to see inside. Watch how it rolls, almost graceful as it hits the ground, despite being wrapped in the ropes and canvas from the cradle as it's dropped for pickup. The UAP's final destination still unknown.
So yeah, man, it's interesting that he says it's an egg-shaped, which is like another piece of the puzzle to this whole UFO thing, which is a man named Chris Bledsoe. They say that Chris Bledsoe is said to be like the most connected to this, because he had like a real interaction with aliens, and one in particular known as the Mother. Him and his son had this encounter, and when he told people about it, like, I guess it triggered this government response because they knew he wasn't bullshitting, because he said the Mother. So the CIA, they put like this deep operations handler on him for years, who goes by the name of Tim Taylor, which is a whole another name that you got to remember, man. I could do a whole video on this dude named Tim Taylor, because he has like a lot of interesting things and how he is connected to this.
Tim Taylor took Chris Bledsoe and members of his family to NASA. Now, Tim Taylor used to have a Twitter account, Launch Fever 2, right here, that is, no longer on Twitter, but there are still some ways to search and find different photos and things about Tim Taylor and what he posted, because you see, Tim Taylor is, worked at NASA and was part of, launch controls, and he was known as the Dragon, and he was able to help, right, with these launches, and he had access that few people have in the community, right? Few people have, period.
But Chris Bledsoe, he wrote a book called UFO of God, and it's about like his encounter, and he talks about seeing an egg-shaped craft. So it's pretty crazy.
Something even more intense happened to him that would change his life forever.
This is one of the most profound experiences I've ever had in my life I'm about to share with you, so bear with me. So as I get closer to this pick site, I start feeling odd. I start feeling extremely emotional. And the closer I get, the more the emotion starts to overwhelm me. I feel this intense hybrid of sadness and happiness and beauty and song. And it was very disruptive to me because I had a very practical responsibility at the time to operate a helicopter in the mountains at night. And I began wondering what was wrong with me. It was late. I'm like, am I just stressed? Am I tired? And I don't know. But as I came over this object for the pick, there was this overwhelming sense of emotion.
Is it your feeling? Are you suddenly having a mental breakdown on the job?
No, I felt like something connected with me. I felt like something had tuned in to me and my soul and was providing me some sense of guidance on what to do and how profound what I was doing was. And it was so overwhelming that I began to cry. And then I'm confused as to why I'm crying at the same time. And then do I abort the mission? So I just did my best to focus on my particular cues when doing this type of work. And I got the load hooked up and I began flying away. And once it was just me and that object in between the pick and the drop site, there's about 20 miles in between, I felt like something was inside of me. I felt like I was possessed by the most beautiful spirit I'd ever been possessed by. And
was it loving?
It was loving. But there was a sense of sadness at the same time. And
had you ever had an experience like this before?
No, it was a very feminine energy, I'll tell you that. It felt like the spirit of God, but not in any masculine sense. And it wasn't like a soul, it was like a frequency that I was connected with. And whatever that force was since that night, it has stayed with me. And as crazy as this sounds, it's what's guiding me now. And it's what's providing protection for me.
Okay, so let's get into this whole thing of like aliens and consciousness, because they're very intertwined. This is what a lot of people fear about this phenomenon, because it connects with not only technology but like human consciousness. People like Stephen Greer and Chris Bledsoe, they say that consciousness is really not only like a state of mind, but a state of being, and everything has a consciousness and is connection to like so many things that you can tap into, that you can like manifest from not just things you want here in this third realm, but you can manifest like a lot of things, especially like these UFOs, because they are linked through consciousness. I think that's what like turns a lot of people off, is when you get into this whole like UFO thing and you start to get into the spiritualness of it and the consciousness side of it, things, because it's really the true unknown, especially when you're talking about like life and death and what's after, or if there is like an in-between. One of the things a lot of people don't talk about is how we all have this power in us to do a lot of these things, especially like manifesting. Some people are more inept to it than others, but there's people that are like real remote viewers who can call upon the UAPs. Even Stephen Greer, he has this protocol that's called CE5, where it takes you through like these steps of meditation and to try initiate contact. I think one of these days I definitely want to go to like Right Pat or this place called the Snake Mound. and we do like the CE5 protocols and basically see what happens, man. See if we can call upon something, because it's possible. Like this dude Chris Bledsoe, he like literally can call upon these things, and he can tell you what time they're gonna be there, or he can actually just tell them to come. And they have like this whole like History Channel thing about him. Like I said, like the government put a deep CIA handler on him to see like, yo, what's up with these? Why are you so inept, and why are they like really in contact with you? So yeah, that's another very special key to understanding what this whole UFO thing is, especially when you get into like the technology side of things.
That object, or whatever was controlling that object, was also connecting to me through the mind, through my mind.
And so how did the object come to land?
I think it was invited to land by the psionics team.
Jake says his mission that night came from no accidental crash. The UAP was summoned by a separate team, a special team with special abilities. They're called psionics. What is a psionic?
A psionic person is someone with the predisposition for extratemporal, you could say, abilities and sensitivities.
Extratemporal abilities, also known as psychic powers. What did you discover the psionics were being used for in the program?
In the program, there was certainly a desire to explore the idea that perhaps UAP could be summoned, could be communicated with, could be controlled, and could be persuaded to land, all by deploying people with psionic abilities.
And did you see that happen?
Yes, I did.
When a psionic operator engages with technology, how do they do it?
Using their mind, something like meditation.
There genuinely are people who can actually make a mental, spiritual connection to a technology.
Yes.
So like I said before, the government, they've been doing research on remote viewers and people who have these psychic abilities for the longest. They have all type of unclassified documents talking about remote viewing and who can do it. There's a place called the Monroe Institute that actually you can go to get these steps on how to do it. And it's a real thing, like being able to astral project your body and to go anywhere, anytime. Some of the examples that I can use for when they did it, like I guess during like the Cold War, they had like this really good remote viewer, and he could show you where all of the secret underground submarine bases was. So he would basically tell you the longitude and latitude of it, and when they go look for it, it actually be there. So the government has been doing this for the longest. I think they used to call it the Stargate Project, which is oddly hilarious that Donald Trump just announced the new AI initiative, like infrastructure, and that's going to be called the Stargate Project. So I mean, you can take with that as you want. I mean, it could be a coincidence. Is it a coincidence? I don't know. Maybe not, man. But me personally, like I say, man, I don't believe in coincidences at all.
But there is certain people who are quantifiably, verifiably capable of this.
It's an established fact that the Pentagon has had an interest in psychic abilities, what it calls remote viewing, for military purposes. The famed Project Stargate spent years studying the subject, and despite the CIA's official position that such studies yielded nothing, former Pentagon UAP investigator Lou Elizondo told me last year that psychic abilities are very real, and perhaps not very rare. So this is an ontological shock, I think, for many people watching this, because we're all being told, firstly, there's no such thing as aliens visiting this planet. And secondly, there's no such thing as telepathy or psychic abilities. It's rubbish.
Yeah, you know, I don't think there is going to be an ontological shock. I think it's going to be an ontological relief, because I think everyone deep down knows that there's more to life than what we are being told and experiencing. Like, not only is it not shocking, but it should be welcome.
But the fact that the government has been using these against like adversaries and to lure and to trap these UAPs is diabolical, man. Because what he's basically saying is that the psionics team will go out, call upon these UAPs, and then they would use technology that we have reverse engineered from them to knock them out the sky and crash them so we can recover them and figure out what's going on with them. They say that this phenomenon, these UFOs, these aliens, whatever that you want to call is going on, that they must be like the most gracious because they've been letting us do this to them for the longest, at least since the 40s, since we got that technology to even do it, because they saying that Roswell is when it first happened, where we got the ability to knock them out the sky.
And after this particular mission, me and everyone on my team got extremely sick, like physically ill in the hospital. Within weeks after this, I'd lost every hair on my body, and I also lost the skin on my arms.
So the skin's actually falling off your body?
Yeah, like not just falling off, like it was lopping off within a couple of days, like a severe sunburn. I ended up developing a severe heart murmur that I'd never had before.
Last year, I introduced Jake to Stanford immunology professor Gary Nolan. He's been studying anomalous injuries among US military personnel for years at the behest of the CIA.
Okay, next let's get into radiation. One of the things that you have to know about this whole UFO thing is that we're dealing with multiple things at one time. You have like the real ones, then you have the government made ones that are actually radioactive because they're using nuclear energy to power them. To the untrained eye, they're basically identical, especially from afar, but when you see them up close, you can tell the difference, because ours have like rivets and you can see like where they're pieced together, opposed to the NHI ones. They're like seamless and you can't like see no windows or nothing. But the ones that we recreate, they definitely have like nuclear power, because I guess we haven't really figured out like their power and how they're generating that, which a lot of people think that could be like 0 point energy that they're using. But another person to like take a mental note of is a guy named Gary Nolan. Gary Nolan, he's a highly decorated academic. He's an immunologist and a professor at Stanford. He's been nominated for all type of Nobel prizes, and the government has given him like unlimited access to a lot of the UFO material to study. They also let him get pieces of debris, which he has written papers on and shown to the public, like these materials that they've done all different type of like test and run test on, and seeing like how it's made couldn't have been made on Earth. Me personally, I think dude is a psyop. He's basically sent here to soften the blow that extraterrestrials exist. by basically saying, oh, I'm a scientist and I'm a credible scientist, so this gotta be real. We gonna slow roll some of this stuff out to you, because if they got somebody like Michio Kaku or Neil deGrasse Tyson, then a lot more people would basically get into this and be like, oh, what do we have going on here? Like, why is the government trying to hide all of this anthological stuff? Like, it's ridiculous. But yeah, that's why when all them drones was flying around, they were saying like, oh, stay away from them. If you see one that falls or on the ground, don't come near it. That's because more than likely those were our reproduction vehicles, and they was looking for something. And if you seen one that fell, they knew that it's basically powered by nuclear energy. So that's why they wanted people to stay away from them. Hopefully here soon, Trump will tell us what was that? What are those drones? So he said about a day or so into it, he was going to tell us. So what's up? What's going on?
Don Paul, a Special Forces veteran, was working on Jake's team at the time.
Were you involved in any of the retrieval attempts?
Yes.
Was there a concern that you were being set up, potentially?
Yes. Setup is a mild term. The fact that people have lost their lives involved in this type of activity, and the lengths to which people have gone to suppress politically uncomfortable truths is such that there is risk involved.
See, this is why this whistleblower is so significant, is because he comes with other decorated veterans who was on his team to actually come out and cooperate his story, which never happens. It's usually one person that'll come out and never want to say who else was with him. But this time he has people who actually work with him come forward, and who also have these top level security clearances and still maintain them, come out and be like, yeah, what he's saying is true, and what we did, we actually recovered these crashed vehicles. And I mean, like I was saying before, man, this is a very big piece of the puzzle, because what he's saying fits with a lot of other stuff that people have been saying for the longest. For at least the last 20-30 years, people have been saying these same exact things. But now with all these whistleblower protections that they've been signing through the government, people are actually starting to come out now and not have really the fear that they did before, because they signed an NDA. Because once you start getting into like what these programs were doing, and most of them were illegal, that all those NDAs don't even matter anymore, because what you was doing is an illegal black program that wasn't approved by the president, wasn't approved by the Congress, and wasn't approved by the people. So that's why these people are starting to come forth more, because they like, oh, okay, now that all this is really starting to unravel, don't link me with all the bullshit that they was doing, because I was just being told what to do. Like, I didn't even know. It's been such a big secret that's one of the things that kept it going, is because people basically kept it to themselves and didn't want to rat until they about to die on their deathbed. That's when most of the people started spilling the beans about what's going on.
Our organization is called Skywatcher. We have been recruiting guys from within the program and women, and are forming a new team in coordination with government agencies. And we also have the funding through venture capital.
See, I knew something was fishy, man. This makes all the sense why the government is letting him come out and say all of this stuff. Because don't be fooled, all these whistleblowers that come out have to submit a DOPSR report, which is basically like a press release that has to be approved by the government of what they can and can't say. But this video is of the whistleblower is definitely a piece of the puzzle to the disclosure, which is coming very soon and literally will turn everybody's world upside down, man. But these people are definitely able to say this. They're allowed to say this. So that makes you also question, like, why are they allowed to say this now? What is happening that the government now is like, okay, we have to disclose what we've been doing all these years? And now they have to basically do a soft disclose because all this information, like, just think of all the stuff that they've been doing for the last 80 something years, man. Like, you gotta think they've been doing this stuff at least since the 40s. So all the murders they committed, all the intimidation, all the money that they've been sucking up from people, from taxes, all the black projects, like, and then they not even doing anything with that but using the technology for war. And we live in a world of abundance, man. So if they give us a little piece of the technology for energy, man, that would change so many people's lives. That's why this whole topic is so important, and then more people need to start asking more questions and trying to understand what reality really is, of knowing that we aren't alone on this planet, and we've never been alone on this planet. So that's one of the things that I really want to stress to people the most. Yeah, that's gonna be it for this one. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna end it on a little vibe, you know what I'm saying? I want to thank y'all for tuning in. Thank y'all for coming back to the Intentional Thought Podcast. I hope I could enlighten some of y'all on this new news that's been coming out on this whole UFO disclosure thing. I mean, there's a lot more that'll be coming out very, very soon. And you can be sure that I'm going to cover it. I'm going to show y'all how all of this links together. But that'll be it for this video. So remember to always keep it intentional, one thought at a time. Peace.
Make sure you ain't hit my brow. I would rather be a scar in your life than to be forgotten. I still walk around with your heart in my pocket, right next to the number that I just got. And when I'm done, I go ghost. When she asks why, I tell her I'm locked in. Breaking her heart, baby, leave it to me. She like texting, girl, that's my best friend. If you don't play your role, I got her back up on the way. I got dreams today.